Everyone, welcome to Green One Day at a Time. It's July and the skies are loaded with some very dark clouds. I hope it rains. The allotment needs it. It's been raining on and off, but not enough to soak the soil really well. But we have plenty of harvest irrespective of that. This is the yellow golden courgette. They are quite big actually. I haven't harvested them in time, so that's the size you could harvest. They're very tender, but whereas in this size the skin starts to harden up and you can cook them, whereas in this smaller size you can actually eat them raw like a cucumber. It's that tender. You can even pick them even smaller. There's another plant there with yellow courgettes that also has loads of them ready to be picked. These plants are very spiky. The stems on the leaves are very spiky, so I'm kind of trying to not get poked, and then harvest all of the courgettes which are ready to be picked. So that's a nice big size. Summer squashes like courgettes are very versatile. You can make them into raw noodles. You can cook them in any cuisine you want. I tend to do a lot of Indian cooking with the courgettes. Yeah, they are very versatile. This is Deniza courgette, the round courgette. That's also a little bit too big now. You can pick them really small and they are very tender like the other courgettes, but in this stage they are actually quite big and you can stuff them. That is quite tasty if you stuff them. They have plenty more flowers coming, so I'll take this off. The runner beans, they are all happily growing and producing. A couple of them are ready to be picked. The way to know whether it's ready to pick is by just touch your beans and then see whether you can feel the bean inside. I like to have a little bit of the actual bean inside the pod, whereas this one is quite bendy and quite soft, so there is no beans in. You can pick them, they are ready to be picked, but I like a little bit of the bean inside, and that adds to a little bit more volume and texture to the bean. So pick them, feel them. If you can feel the beans, pick them, or pick them in this state as well, where where they are very tender and there's very little bean inside the pod. So there's more here, so they're very tiny, and more flowers up here. So the harvests are getting there on runner beans. And then there's some more here. They're all growing. They're very tender at this stage. And there's one more here. Now, among this grassy patch, there are some small tomato plants. The plants are very small in size, but the tomatoes are very good. So I'm picking them as much as I can. And the plants aren't growing that high. This is the cabbage. That's the one I'm going to pick today. But a lot of them have gone into seed, have bolted. A lot of them. This is because of the early June and May heat wave. And the cold nights have put the plants into stress. So I'm going to clear them off and then harvest this particular one. It's a good sized one. Because I've kept them under a very tight mesh, we have saved them from the cabbage butterflies. Back at home, this is my dwarf copperleaf spinach. They're all in pots inside my polytunnel, ready to be harvested. That's the second harvest on those, and these will be the first harvest. So once you harvest them, you can plant the stems back into the soil, and they will grow leaves which you can harvest. You only eat the leaves. Malabar spinach, the leaves are quite healthy. They are growing really well. That will also be harvested today. Again, the leaves you consume and you put the stems back into the soil and they will grow again and produce more leaves. Same as the cabbage, the spinach, I haven't even got one harvest. They just bolted straight off when the heat wave started. So we are going to clear this off, take whatever leaves we can from this, and then so that's a Swiss chard. It hasn't bolted yet. So all the spinach is going to come out and it's going to be replanted with the dwarf copperleaf stems. So I've taken all the leaves out. The stems are very hard to eat, so you just use good stems to plant them back into the soil. So that can be divided into 2 or 3 or even 4 different stem plants, and they will root quite easily and produce more leaves. In a course of 3 weeks, they'll produce more leaves. So it will be planted in this patch where the spinach has been cleared, and hopefully they'll produce more leaves. Then they are heavy feeders, you need to feed them. There's a red amaranth among everything. So I'm going to use this tool. The spacing is quite correct. They can be planted very close. So I'm going to use that tool to just poke a little bit holes in the soil and then put the stems in. Here this stem, you can divide them, so it's quite big, so you can divide them into probably four different ones, because they will root from any point. Just make sure that they have some nodules for the root development. Bear with me while I prod along and plant these little tiny twigs into the soil. The end of the 3-4 days, we've got quite a lot of harvest. So these are all the courgettes I harvested on the day. A lot of yellow ones, Black Beauty, Deniza, a lot of courgettes in different sizes. 7 varieties of tomatoes, so that is Black Beauty, that is Tigerella, so those green veins markings are for Tigerella. There is Sweet Million and a lot of other cherry tomatoes in the mix. This is Sun Gold. So a lot of different, I think around 7 varieties of tomatoes. The cabbage, the one I harvested, some runner beans and snack cucumbers, mini cucumbers, and F1 variety. I don't know what these white markings are, probably that is slug damage. And then the red-leafed lettuce. I have to harvest the lettuce much quicker now because they are running into seed. They are almost done. So I hope you liked this little tour of what I did in the past couple of days. See you soon, and meanwhile, stay safe.